Rasingamadem Sharanam Prapate Tabakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Anudeka Yeshama Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Shavadri Anara Hare Loka Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Nasingadev Jaya Nasingadev Jaya Nasingadev Jaya Nasingadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai Prahlad Maharaj ki Srila Prabhupada ki jai
Would you mind giving the kartal? Yeah, thank you.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा पवनचारी। यमुना तीरा पवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभु, जय जय प्रभु, जय प्रभु। जय प्रभु, जय जय प्रभु, श्रील प्रभु। हिताय गौ प्रेमानंद। ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमदे भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात्देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all very much for joining this evening. And in the first week of May, we have Narasimha Jayanti, the celebration. You are all invited for a 2-day celebration. And in context of that, I would like to speak a few words in today's class about the great devotee of Prahlad Maharaj, the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj. And in the Bhagavatam, it is said that when we glorify the devotee, is actually glorification of the Lord himself, because all the qualities come from the Lord into the devotee. So as we speak Prahlad Maharaj's glories, we're actually meditating on Lord Narasimhadev and his mercy upon Prahlad Maharaj. So I would like to begin. Not sure how that sound is going to help us. Do I have the thing to move the slides, or somebody will move them for me? Not sure. Anyways. So as you can see the picture, we have seen many times, Prahlad Maharaj standing in front of Lord Narasimhadev. And there's a very special significance of this picture. Would anybody like to say what is the most significant feature of this picture? Yeah, exactly. You said rightly, Satyabhama Mataji, that the hand, the lotus hand of the Lord, the all merciful hand of the Lord is on the head of Prahlad Maharaj. And we will speak about how in the next slide, hopefully that they can move. Can somebody please check with Prabhuji if I can move? Or he, oh yeah, right there. So is the slide that says causeless devotion to causeless mercy. So the causeless devotion that Prahlad Maharaj exhibited, that attracted the causeless mercy of the Lord in terms of the Lord's hand, the Lord's lotus hand on the head of Prahlad Maharaj. And we will try to relate in the next half an hour or so, how that example of Prahlad Maharaj's causeless devotion, bringing him the causeless mercy, can also inspire us. How we can understand the causeless devotion and practice it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So the causeless devotion that we can practice, how can we aspire to receive the causeless mercy of the Lord in our situation. So it's always that when we discuss the great personalities, the Mahabhagavatas like Prahlad Maharaj and the Lord himself, Lord Narasimha, we usually would like to see where is the significance of those stories in my life, where I can bring some transformation, some benefit to my own life. And that's why I would like to discuss on those lines as well, as to how these two terms relate to us, or how we can make them relate to us. So as you can see, causeless devotion, ahatuki bhakti. So we have it in the Shikshashtakam, Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatat Bhaktir ahatuki tvai. And we are also talking about the ahatuki krupa, or in Prahlad Maharaj's words, in one of the verses that we'll see later, is the anukampa, which is the causeless mercy. So when you use the ahatuki word, there are two connotations. When we are speaking about causeless devotion, that means, in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, there's this verse, unmotivated, uninterrupted, right? Ahatuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. So there is the word ahatuki bhakti. And in that context, the word hetu means any motive or purpose. So when we say ahatuki, that means without any motive or without any purpose. So the devotion which is done without any personal motive or gain is ahatuki bhakti. And when the ahatuki krupa of the Lord comes, it is said that that particular connotation of the word hetu is that either cause or reason. So ahetuki means causeless or reasonless, or we can also say without, like baseless or groundless. There's no reason, there's no ground for the Lord to send the mercy. And that's the causeless mercy of the Lord. And in the Bhagavatam, as I said, that Prahlad Maharaj is thanking the Lord for that ahetuki krupa, or in other words, in that particular verse is the anukampa. So this is the understanding with which we can move on. And I'm sorry, I made the slides really at the last minute, so they're very tiny. I did not get to enlarge them, so I'm really sorry about that, but I hope you all can read it together. So let's understand how is the ahetuki devotion of Prahlad Maharaj began. And the beginning was Prahlad Maharaj being in the womb of his mother, and he's hearing from Narad Muni as his spiritual master. So this Mahabhagavat, he actually got all the instructions of the Guru as the causeless guidance. So sometimes the very beginning of the causeless devotion is this causeless guidance from another pure devotee. In our case, Srila Prabhupada. For no reason we are here, that we are receiving all the instructions from Srila Prabhupada, right? So in case of Prahlad Maharaj, this causeless guidance gave him the impetus to start his devotion. And of course, the previous spiritual piety he got, it is not that suddenly he was transformed, but of course the faith and the devotional background that he got from the previous life as well. And if you can see the qualities that were depicted by Prahlad Maharaj to do this causeless devotion. And they are enlisted there in the 7th canto, in the story of Narasimhadev and Prahlad. And especially in the 4th chapter, there's a focus on describing the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. And I kind of made a list of them looking at a couple of verses. So these qualities we can listen to very carefully, because we want to relate to those qualities. We want to see, do we have them, or how can I try to improve? How can I bring more pure qualities that are described there? So in that sense, we will look at the list. It's the mind and the sense control that Prahlad Maharaj had. And he was kind and friendly to all living entities, the compassion he had for everyone. He was prideless of his birth, his education, and his opulence. Even though he was the prince of the topmost king of the emperor of the world, he was prideless. Prahlad Maharaj is described as peaceful and stable in adverse situations. We all know that he was tortured to death by his own father and by the servants of his father. And yet at the same time, we know that he was peaceful, he was stable in his devotion. And the other quality is that he is not interested in materially motivated activities. So his life is not driven by that motivation of doing material activities or gaining material gain. Even though he was given all facilities, he was right in the midst of the greatest opulent lifestyle, and the best opportunities that could be provided to him, to anybody, were available to him. And yet he was not. Because he was free from material desires. He was steady in his intelligence and determination for devotional service. And in that way, his quality was fearlessness of death and fearlessness of the future. So some of these, as I said, we could really meditate upon as to how do they relate to us and how we can improve upon them. Now, looking at the obstacles that Prahlad Maharaj had on his path of devotion, They are vividly described in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, especially in the 5th chapter, how the father, Hiranyakashipu, had deadly attacks on Prahlad Maharaj. And again, I did not have time, so I just copied the verse here. It says that the demons who were the Rakshasas, and they were servants of Hiranyakashipu, they got an order from Hiranyakashipu for the murder, you can say the murder of Prahlad Maharaj. And they began striking the tender parts of Prahlad Maharaj's body with their tridents. The demons all had fearful faces, sharp teeth, and reddish coppery beards and hair, and they appeared extremely threatening, making a tumultuous sound, shouting, "Chop him up, pierce him." They began striking Prahlad Maharaj, who sat silently meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And later on, Prahlad Maharaj was also subject to many other punishments because the first punishment did not work. And in the second paragraph, which is also coming from another set of verses, it says Hiranyakashipu could not kill his son by throwing him beneath the feet of big elephants, throwing him among huge, fearful snakes, employing destructive spells, hurling him from the top of a hill, conjuring upon illusory tricks, administering poison, starving him of food, exposing him to severe cold, winds, fire, and water, and throwing heavy stones to crush him. And Prahlad Maharaj accepted these adversities without losing faith in Lord Vishnu, without losing faith, without losing hope and trust in the Lord's protection. He continued his devotional meditation on the Lord. So the difficult attacks were coming upon him. And as he was going through that experience, he was continuing his meditational devotion on the Lord. That's important for us also to remember, to kind of notice this point, that difficulties come. Krishna consciousness does not guarantee that you will be free from difficulties. They will not disappear suddenly, and they will arrive whenever they have to arrive in our lives. But how do we parallelly continue our strong determination, our faith and trust and hope in the Lord's protection? So those things will continue, and our internal processing of those adversities, along with the help of devotion, with the help of the trust and the hope of the Lord, should also continue parallelly while everything is going on. So that's the kind of point that I wanted to see if it relates to our lives. And after all of this, what followed to Prahlad Maharaj was the causeless mercy of the Lord. And I would like to bring this beautiful verse that Prahlad Maharaj said after the whole drama was done about killing Hiranyakashipu, and the Lord was still very angry, and nobody wanted to go and pacify the Lord. So finally, Prahlad Maharaj was given that task to go forward and actually offer prayers to the Lord to pacify him. And this is one of the beautiful prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. There's a whole chapter dedicated to the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, and the 9th chapter in that 7th canto. And one of these prayers, Prahlad Maharaj says that, "O my Lord, O Supreme, because I was born in a family full of the hellish material qualities of passion and ignorance, what is my position? And what is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was never offered even to Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune Lakshmi? You never put your lotus hand upon their heads, but you have put it upon me. And I would like to read quickly the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada writes that Prahlad Maharaj was surprised at the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. For although Prahlad was born in a demoniac family, and although the Lord had never before placed his lotus hand on the head of Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi Devi, who is his constant companion, Lord Narasimhadev kindly placed his hand on the head of Prahlad. This is the meaning of causeless mercy. The causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may be bestowed upon anyone, regardless of his position in the material world. Everyone is eligible to worship the Supreme Lord, irrespective of his material position. So, receiving the most merciful hand of the Lord on his own head was Prahlad Maharaj's receiving the causeless mercy of the Lord. And Prabhupada assures that anyone can receive the causeless mercy, irrespective of our position. Prahlad Maharaj himself, being Mahabhagavat, is saying in this verse that what is my position? I am full of ignorance and passion and all the demoniac qualities, but he was actually not. Whereas we are still in that boat. We all together in the same boat. Nobody's behind or ahead, but we are more or less in the same boat of passion, ignorance, and many unwanted qualities. So that's why Prabhupada wanted to mention that this is not material conditioning will not be or should not be an obstacle in our receiving causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot say that because I have this problem or that problem, that's why I can't do the devotion, and that's why I may not be eligible to receive the fullest benefit. No, that is not that's not the condition. But our material problems, material conditions will not hamper us, should not hamper us from doing a pure, sincere devotion and also attracting the Lord's position, Lord's attention to us. So, how did Prahlad Maharaj do this? And I mentioned the two words, Preeti and Buddhi. So, Mahabhagavatas like Prahlad Maharaj, he is able to do this causeless devotion, ahatuki bhakti, because of his love for the Lord, because his Preeti, his prema. Now, we may not have that much of prema to just say that I will do the most causeless devotion to the Lord, even in spite of going through all the adversities. For us, for the sadhakas, it may not be the Preeti, but it will be the Buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence. And if you remember the 10th, in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter and the 10th verse, it says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam yam tam yenamam upayanti te. Means, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me, Krishna says, with love, I will give the understanding by which they can come to me. So that is the intelligence, the buddhi that we have to cultivate in order to be able to do the causeless devotion. And Krishna has also in other places given or shown his favor to that person who does devotion with knowledge, not just blind knowledge, blind devotion, but he has glorified Jnani who is doing bhakti, right? Because he says there are many people who will come to me for different reasons. They are all udar, they are all pious people, but out of that, Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishate Priyo Hi Jnanino Atyartham Sacha Mama Priyaha. Krishna says that of all these devotees, one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So this could be our path with sadhakas, that we may not have full selfless love to display, just like Prahlad Maharaj, but we have this Buddhi Yoga path where we are given opportunity to cultivate our spiritual intelligence, our buddhi, while we are learning how to do devotion, and then applying that buddhi also in devotion, and in that way becoming the devotee who is with knowledge, and that will attract Krishna's attention to us, and that will probably bring us the causeless mercy of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada always wanted us to be expert in scripture, expert in knowledge, so that we know exactly how the process works on ourselves, and then we can explain it to other people, how the process will work on them. Because that will be a very effective preaching and convincing another person and transforming another person. So first transforming ourselves and then helping others to transform. So that's why we need knowledge. And Prahlad Maharaj had this knowledge received from Narad Muni on Bhagavad Dharma. He had also previous piety by which he had the knowledge. So we are also following his footsteps. But for us, the footsteps could be a little bit different because we still have to gain knowledge. We still have to do some efforts to gain the knowledge so that we can do a proper devotion, most effective devotion, right? So I wanted to go a little bit into now our own situation, and please forgive me if I'm not clear, and we can talk a little bit more, but somehow okay, let me see that. Yes, I think I already spoke about this, and now we can move on to the next one. So where are we? Where is our situation? And I made a little analysis with the help of another material. And again, why is this necessary? Because then we will be clear about our position, and then we will be able to understand how we can move to the right direction with the help of our mind, because our mind is the troublemaker. And that's the reason why I feel that we can go through these steps and understand our position. So here, our downfall, because we all be informed by the scripture that we are souls, we are pure in our consciousness, we are a part and parcel of Krishna, but then we don't feel like we are because of our current conditioning. And Satchidananda is the nature of the soul, of us, who we really are intrinsically. We are all Satchit Ananda souls, spirit souls, a part of Krishna. And that Chit means fully cognizant, fully aware, without limit. The same awareness that Krishna has, as a soul, we can also have that complete awareness and cognizance, but we do not have that at present because of our conditioning. And we have been given instead this chitta, which is the impure conditioning of us. So from chit, we have gone to chitta, which is a part of this material world. And chitta is the limited consciousness as against the chit. The chit, we said, is the unlimited consciousness, the all-pervading consciousness. We have gone to a very limited, a very narrow-minded, a very narrow kind of consciousness, only about our own selves and circumstances around us. And that is called being caught up in the matter of that soul. And that narrow-mindedness of the consciousness that we have depends upon what body and mind we have taken. So the animals could have a narrow consciousness depending upon what mind and body they carry. Whereas we humans also will be limited in our consciousness depending upon our development of our mind, right? So that's why we will see many varieties of people with different mindsets, with different mentalities and habits and proclivities towards spirituality or towards other unwanted desires. So this is the chitta that we have. And it has been mentioned that this chitta is impure. It is not pure because it is not the original conditioning of the soul, which is pure. So this is the way we are put into illusion. And mind plays a great role as a tool of this consciousness. Mind plays a great role. It's a tool. Mind is a tool. And what happens is that we perceive with this limited consciousness about our own selves and about the things around us with the help of the mind. And that's how we develop different kinds of desires, which are personal desires for enjoyment in this material world. And that's how everything becomes impure in consciousness, which is reflected in the mind. So this is our position. And what happens because of that, we all know that it leads to misery, right? So the miserable condition of life, we all have been well aware of that, is the understanding of the mind. The mind understands the misery, the mind perceives the misery, because the mind is reflected through that limited consciousness, which we have depending upon our body and mind. So if we want to do any spiritual progress, taking examples of Mahabhagatas like Prahlad Maharaj, our aspiration is that we would like to receive something similar to Prahlad Maharaj. We would like to become something like Prahlad Maharaj and also receive the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, what is the use of all the devotional service that we're doing? We are not doing it for any other purpose, gaining prestige or feel-goodness factor or material religiosity, saying we are all dharmic. No, that's not the real purpose. The real purpose is, where can I do my progress? I have these 10 different difficulties in front of me. I have these different kinds of miseries in front of me. They're coming from my own mind. They're coming from my own body because of whatever conditioning, like they say, like even like diseases, like we face miseries because our own disease of our own bodies, right? And then there are miseries coming from other people, other living entities. And some miseries are not even understood where they come from. They just come from the higher divine authorities, like for the earthquakes and stuff like that. So there are different miseries, different distresses we all go through. And we would like to become like Prahlad Maharaj, right? No one will disagree on that. We would like to become as good in the qualities as Prahlad Maharaj, and also we would like to receive the outcomes as Prahlad Maharaj received. And what could be our tools? So we can discuss a little bit on that. So the tools that are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the scriptures that are given to us by Srila Prabhupada, mind is one of the most important tools, because in the 6th chapter, Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavad Gita that mind, just as we looked at, the mind brings us, because of the limited consciousness, the mind plays the role in bringing us into illusion of Maya. In the same way, mind can also help us becoming free from the illusion of Maya. And that's why mind is our tool. And intelligence, I think I'm going to talk louder if the thing is effective or not. So intelligence is another tool. Now, intelligence as master of the mind and not as a servant of the mind, because if intelligence is serving the mind, then the mind will go aspiring for the enjoyment, and the intelligence will just give him company, just accompany and cooperate with the mind. So we do not look for that kind of intelligence. We are looking for an intelligence which is master of the mind, so that the intelligence can help us. So that intelligence can be a tool. The other tool is our own faith. And practicing, cultivating, nurturing that faith is something that we need to do. We all in this assembly do have faith. That's why we are here. We all have, most of us have taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara. We study books, we chant. So we do have faith. Please be assured that we all have faith. But we need to cultivate it more. And that is our sadhana, is a part of our sadhana. Then the tool is Guru's instructions. Srila Prabhupada's writings, our Shiksha Guru, our Diksha Guru. We have many instructions available to us as the tools. And ultimately, the devotional service, different kinds of devotional services are given to us, the 9 kinds of devotional service, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. The chanting of the holy names of Krishna, that's our tool. So let's see how we can utilize, especially the tool of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, in order to bring purity to our mind, purity to our consciousness. And in that way, let's see how we can attract the mercy of the Lord, just as Prahlad Maharaj. So it has been explained now, especially in Shikshashtakam, Cheto Darpan Marjanam, right? And Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Chanting the holy names of Krishna in japa, as your personal sadhana, chanting the names of Krishna in kirtan, in the collective assembly of devotees like this. They both consider Sankirtan, and they are the topmost victorious benediction to all of us. And how does the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on a regular basis, on a sincere basis, can change our mind, can change our consciousness, can transform our consciousness in line with the consciousness of Prahlad Maharaj? How that can happen? You know, we all say Cheto Darpana Majanam, and we all say chanting the benediction, which will be most victorious. But how does that exactly happen? So, just as water, which is impure, is purified with a purifying agent, when we chant the holy name of Krishna, Lord Krishna being non-different from his own name and having invested all his potencies in his own name, works as the purifier. When we chant his holy name with attention, Krishna purifies our impure consciousness and impure mind, which has many unnecessary desires. And contact with Krishna in the holy name while chanting Hare Krishna mantra cleanses this mind in that way. So it purifies our desires, and also it removes the impure desires. So purify our desires, which means we may continue to have those desires like earning money, having security, having proper family. We all have those desires, and those desires can continue in Krishna consciousness. What Krishna will do through the purification process, through this chanting of his holy names, is that he will purify those desires, which means he will allow us to remove the selfish part of those desires and move those desires or turn those desires in service of himself or Krishna. So we all probably can think about our own examples, like maybe some of us joined a few years ago, Krishna consciousness movement, when we had different ideas about our own desires, about our own aspirations, our ambitions. And today we have the same ambitions, materially speaking, you know, in general, with our daily lives. But we know now that our purpose is different. Our purpose is to make our family healthy, have the secure money so that we can actually devote ourselves to the service of Krishna. So this is the example of purifying our desires. The desires may be there, but they are purified now. So that's what Krishna will do. And also he will remove some of the impure desires. And we all have gone through that experience as well when we join Hare Krishna movement. When we do sadhana, when we look back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we realize that we had many misconceptions about those desires, and we carried those unnecessary desires which were not helping us in finding peace, because our minds were agitated. But now, with the help of Krishna conscious sadhana, we find that those desires may not be holding the priority, the topmost 10 priorities in our lives anymore. And that has not made much change in our lives for giving up those unwanted desires, which were not making peace with our mind. So in that way, Krishna takes care of purifying and also removing some of the impure desires from our mind. And with the help of this chanting of the Krishna's names and the purificatory effect of Krishna's mercy, unseen, it is not seen, you will not see it in any way because it's subtle. What happens is that over a period of time, we have a better realization of our original consciousness as soul. We have a realization that I am not this body. I am not necessarily bound by all these mental concoctions about my joy, my peace, my security. There are so many ideas that we will realize that they are actually, it's possible to bring them in line with the Shastra. When it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita that desire for Krishna and service to Krishna can be our goal, we can actually see that this can work, this can happen. It is not impractical, it's not a theory, because many devotees, they experience that actually their realization as servant of Krishna has gone up. And one of the other things that happens, which is also very tangible, that we have seen in the devotees' lives, is that the spiritual strength. When Prahlad Maharaj was tormented in that way, when we read those paragraphs where Hiranyakashipu had devised so many plans to practically kill Prahlad Maharaj, he was not killed. He came out whole. And Hiranyakashipu said, why is this boy not being killed by all these methods? What is it that stopping him, or what is it that protecting him? What kind of strength he has? So Hiranyakashipu was able to perceive that Prahlad Maharaj had some sort of a strength, but he did not know the source. He did not know where it is exactly and how it is working, but he identified that strength. And that strength is also experienced by devotees who are practicing sincerely for a few years. When difficulties come, when adversities come, we are able to face those adversities and difficulties with inner conviction that if Krishna's plan is right now this for me, let me do it. Because I know that Krishna had some welfare for me in this. There's some amount of welfare involved in this plan. And I will just await that welfare, that let that come on me as it comes in due course of time. But in the meantime, I am under the protection of Krishna. My senses, my body, my life here, my heart is protected by Krishna. And so is my family for my collective strength, because there's something which is your individual spiritual strength that you will realize when you're doing your sadhana. But fortunately, if your entire family is also involved in sadhana bhakti, then you will also feel that collective strength to go through the adversity which comes on the family collectively sometimes. So that spiritual strength is transforming for us. And that is the causeless mercy of the Lord on us. So in this way, when chanting, we many times, Srila Prabhupada has given us the meaning. Krishna, please engage me in your service. Radharani, please engage me in your service. That's the meaning of Maha Mantra. So chanting is seeking more service, but not necessarily physically, because you may say that we already are engaged in so many services. So what do you mean by asking for more service from Krishna? I don't have time. So Krishna also knows that we only have 24 hours and we can do only this much. So it is not asking for the quantity of the service. Krishna, please engage me in your service. What we are asking and what Krishna is providing as benediction is the service attitude, is the mood of service. That comes. When the mood of service comes, then our lives becomes very easy, very peaceful, and with full strength, we can live our lives. So I probably have the next slide here. So developing, I think we already spoke about this. And there is a saying, it's a very interesting saying. It says, he who has a why to live for, and the why is in italics, as you can see. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. So meaning is that, why do you live? As sadhakas, we have higher goals. As we saw in the previous discussion, that our purpose is to somehow or the other walk in the footsteps of these Mahabhagavatas like Prahlad Maharaj, understand their qualities, try to imbibe them as much as possible, and also aspire to receive the causeless mercy as Prahlad Maharaj received. So we have a why to live. Our lives, when we come in Krishna consciousness, become very meaningful. Of course, you may say that my life was meaningful before as well, but that meaningfulness was or is more or less illusory, and it never brings the permanent happiness, as Bhagavad Gita indicates again and again. When we take up Krishna consciousness, sadhana, bhakti, our lives become meaningful for the service of Krishna. We have a higher goal to achieve, just like Prahlad Maharaj. Even though we may not be anywhere close to Mahabhagavatas like him, but still we have that goal, and we can walk that goal in this life with the help of our sadhana, with the help of other devotees. And so we have a why to live for, and then we can bear almost any how to live, which means any difficulties that come on our way, we will be able to survive them because we have a why. So in this way, our causeless mercy again is the spiritual strength that we will get, and the fearlessness of death, fearlessness of future, anxieties about future, lamentation of the past, and all these good qualities will come upon us. And that is the causeless, merciful hand of the Lord on us. Even if we can achieve this much in our lives, I think our lives will be very much perfect. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there is an indication of this kind of causeless mercy and its effect. And I will quickly go through that verse. It says, Prashantam manasamhenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam akalmasham. So, of course, this is a very high level meaning sometimes we may feel because it's the description of the yogi. So the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He goes beyond the modes of passion, and he realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is free from all reaction to past deeds. So even though this may sound very difficult for some of us, but we all are walking together on that path of this yogi, where we say that we feel the peacefulness of the mind, the sereneness, the serenity of the mind, and the kind of sukha that we aspire is the sukham uttamam, the best happiness. And Brahma Bhuta akalmasham. Akalmasham is free from all past sinful reactions. So in this way, the causeless mercy upon us can come in this format, where we will have peaceful mind, we will have happiness, which is more than what we have so far experienced in our lives without the devotional path. And in that way, we will feel freedom from many unwanted situations or many unwanted limitations in terms of our mentalities in passion and ignorance. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions in this verse of Bhagavad Gita 6:27 that to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the modes of passion and all material contamination. So as we in the beginning saw, where is the downfall for us from chit to chitta, which is contaminated consciousness, Prabhupada mentions that with the help of this verse, that loving service to the Lord, as we are all trying to do here in sadhana bhakti or Krishna consciousness, is actually the liberation from this contaminated chitta. And this can happen to all of us with practice, with the help of Prabhupada's mercy, with the help of our Guru's mercy, with the help of devotee association. And that was my humble effort to relate Prahlad Maharaj's story of his causeless mercy to us and to our aspiration for that same causeless mercy upon us. And I'll end here with one verse that we can offer to Narasimhadev as the time comes for our Narasimha Jayanti. This is in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 18th chapter, 8th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namas Tejase Avir Bhava Vajranakha Vajradamstra Karmashyan Randhaya Tamo Grasa Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyishtha Om Kshom. Radha Sham Sundar ki Jai. It's almost like a beautiful coincidence that when we recited the verse and the curtain was closed. So the meaning of this verse is that I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Narasimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activities in this material world. And please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy, may we become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. It's a very appropriate verse for today's discussion, as well as for our continuous prayers. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that any devotee aspiring to be free from material desires should offer his respectful prayers to Narasimhadev, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. So in this way, by saying this prayer, we will be walking in the footsteps of Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Narasimhadev Bhagwan ji ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj Mahabhagavat ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. I offer my respectful obeisances to all of you. If you have any comments, or if you have time for comments, please. Or please correct me if I missed anything, or if you have any other realizations from your own sadhana, please share for the benefit of everyone. 5:18. Sorry, I'm sorry, 5:18. 8. 5:18:8. It's one of the words that you can add to your daily prayers.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Oh, sorry.
Hare Krishna. Please take your seats.
Haribol, Shreyash, and all gang. Please take a seat.
Announcement, please seated.
So I'd like to thank Her Grace Govindanandani Mataji of the Loud. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Today is Sunday.